freedom, law, education, health, free energy, money, debt. Awake Radio, deconstructing the dream world, one lie at a time.
You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you? You know, for a second there, yeah, I kind of did.
Listening to A Change of Perspective. We are being simulcast on awakeradio.us and shizizradio.com. We here at Awake and Shiziz would like to let you know that we have much love for you and are so glad that you are here. And I am your host, Rick, TruthSeeker22, and I am here to tell you that I hope you enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome once again to this Saturday night episode of A Change of Perspective. Well, of course, early Sunday morning for some and Sunday morning for others and Sunday afternoon for even others. So I hope you're having a good time and I hope you are ready to hear our show tonight, which we will have Barry Prince with us. He hails from British Columbia, Canada, and he used to be part of another sister station, which I suppose I could probably mention it because it is part of his history, is Dark City Radio. He will be here shortly, so hang on to your hats. He will be here in probably about 10 minutes. So I'm going to play a song or two before he gets here, and when he gets here, we will have much to talk about, and I hope you enjoy the night. Thank you so much for being here.
do. In this generation, in this loving time, in this generation, we will make the world shine. We were born to love one another. This is something we all need. We were born to love one another. We must be what we're going to be. And what we have to be is free. In this generation, in this loving time, in this generation, we will make the world shine. We were born to love one another. This is something we all need. We were born to love one another. We must be what we're going to be. And what we have to be is free. Love is understanding. We gotta be free. Love is understanding. We gotta be free. In this generation, love is understanding. We gotta be free. We gotta be free. We gotta be free.
Okay, everyone, we're back, and we're here with Barry Prince. How are you, Barry?
Great, Rick. How you doing, bud? Glad to join you
Excellent.
again.
Thank you so much for coming. So we were just talking about GMOs, and not to get off the subject of GMOs, but I posted a few pictures earlier today of the chemtrails that they were chemming us again today, which seems to be more and more. And we had some really funny snow here recently. I mean, I've never seen snow like that before. You you put a lighter to snow, snow will not hold the carbon residue from the flame. And this stuff did, and it smelled like burnt plastic.
Yeah, I've heard lots about that, Rick. And a lot of people are coming back and be going, well, it was a candle, or you were holding it over top of a kerosene lamp, and the kerosene lamp is what caused the smell. But I've talked to some people down in the States, Rick, that did the experiment, and they're supporting exactly what you said, that we're seeing so much pollution in the air right now from the chemtrails that it is ending up, of course, into our groundwater and our snow. All you have to do is go out and test yourself. Like Roger was saying earlier tonight, Rick, on his show, take a bowl of water and set it out in your yard overnight and have a look at it in the morning.
Right.
And that should wake you up pretty quick.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you what, Barry, I did 3 tests on it. I did a test with a butane lighter. I did a test with a gas stove. Okay. And I did a test with a torch. All the same things. And it just disappeared when the heat hit it. It just disappeared. It did not melt and turn into a puddle of water. It just dissipated.
Yeah, it should instantly melt, of course. So yes. Obviously something very screwed up in Denmark, Rick, and we all know that what they're putting in the air is ending up on the ground, and of course we're going to end up in our food and everything else that we're consuming. So
the air we breathe.
That, the air we breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just ludicrous, man. Why? I just, I can't wrap myself around why millions of people aren't standing up and going, hey, shoot those planes down, shoot them down.
Well,
what's going on, man?
I recently heard that other countries were questioning why America isn't standing up about this, amongst other things. I mean, the GMOs, the way they're taking our rights away from us, this police state that they're trying to push on us. And I asked the same question: why aren't we standing up about this?
I think we all ask ourselves the same question every day, Rick, and I don't have the answer. There's so many mitigating factors, buddy. I guess we got to kind of look at what America is right now and how it's divided and how it's become so diversified. And I think that is the ground root for a lot of the problems we're having, where we're having a difficult time getting a large group of people to stand together because of the diversification in America now. I believe that's all by design, Rick.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The segregation that has occurred on this planet is definitely a design meant to keep us separate, to keep us from communicating with each other. But that's changing. That is definitely changing. The internet has just knocked a huge hole in their plan, and I know that they're upset about
They're
it.
they're panicking right now, man. And
Oh
you see
yeah,
them, you see the corporations now making moves, Rick, to try and shut the internet down. But
yes,
when they do, we will find a way to communicate, and we will get around their BS because they're not going to stop us from talking. Too many people awake now, buddy.
that's right. And the numbers are growing daily and daily. The numbers are growing.
Exponentially.
Yes, sir.
Even I was going to tell your viewers there, like this week I had a conversation. Believe it or not, we're talking about GMOs, eh? And I know this girl works at the newspaper. She's not a reporter, but she still works at the local newspaper here. And I saw her in the coffee shop, and I walked up and said, "How you doing?" And we got into a conversation. I said, "Well, have you been doing much looking into the GMOs?" And she looked at me and said, "Well, I've heard a wee bit about it, but what are GMOs?" And I just about fell off my chair.
Wow.
We're living in a world, folks. We're living in a world, folks, that GMOs are literally killing us. And this girl, who is supposed to be kind of up on it, working in a newspaper, really didn't have a clue what was going on. So I asked her as a favor to go look at some websites, and I gave her 2 or 3 to go look at. And this morning, we had coffee again, Rick. And when she walked into the coffee shop, she started talking to me. Her mouth literally dropped. She says, "I spent 3 hours looking at links, studying information," and she says, "I am absolutely flabbergasted. I had no idea." So what's happening, Rick? The mainstream media is doing an awfully good job of quashing information about this. The governments are doing an awfully good job. So it blew me away, brother. It really did. The lack of knowledge, and I'm seeing that with a lot of people. They just haven't got a clue.
That's
So
right.
I'm glad we're here tonight and try and open up a few minds.
Yes, I mean that is definitely the reason I am here. The reason I wanted to do this, wasn't to spin discs. You know, I mean, I want to get this information out to people. They need to know this information, and not only that, I want people to understand that they are way bigger than they give themselves credit for. You know, they have to understand that they have the power.
Yeah, I think they have to understand too, Rick, that we are in a time that they're just not going to be able to sit back and hope that it gets fixed by itself, because it isn't going to fix itself. And if I can do anything in my little talks on the radio with you and other people, it's just inspire people to get busy and become active and not sit in front of the computer or the TV, and actually start doing stuff about this. And we got to lead by example, and I'm doing lots to do that, Rick. So
Yes, same
that's,
here.
that's
I'm a
yeah.
board director on at the Maine Tenants Justice League, because
Ah,
tenants themselves have no rights, and we are working very hard to change this. And in fact, I'm getting ready to move to Maine because I want to get my hands right in it. I want to start having seminars and making the tenants and the landlords and homeowners aware of what their real true rights are and how we can change things.
yeah, the individual, man. Believe it or not, we have a lot of power. We have more power when we're joined together, but every one of us has a voice, and every one of us has to be heard at this point.
That's right. I mean, everyone's worth something, and people have been had it driven into their heads that they are not worth anything. I mean, we are a cog in the wheel. That's how they portray us. That's how they drill it into our heads, is that we are just part of the system, and without the system we won't survive. We we are we are the drive. We are the engine that makes things go, not the other way around.
Well, when you look at it, Rick, it's only, what is it, 4% of the world is actually controlling what's going on our planet right now. And the people that are doing it are absolute psychopaths. So to me, I see no more, I don't see any other option or choice right now in my life to push back against this as hard as I can. When I really sat down over the last couple of years and done my research, and you really realize how evil these people are, how soulless these people are, and what they have in plan for us in the future, well, boy, I'll tell you, that got me mad enough that it has to spur you into action for the sake of our children.
Absolutely. And I implore everyone out there that's listening, talk to your family, talk to your friends, just talk to anybody about this, get it out there, get people to understand that this is not a joke. These people
No,
want to eliminate us so they can control the minor population that they have left.
exactly. You know what's really amazing, Rick, is if you look people right in the eye and you really start talking to them and you talk with your heart to them, people will actually start taking time. Like I've experienced that here in this small town that I live in. Like I said last week, I think I mentioned that a lot of my friends a couple years ago, I was going, well, guys, you know what? There's some really screwed up stuff. And I think that the next couple, 3 years, we're going to see some real shit come down. Excuse my language, Rick. And, a lot of them back then were laughing at me, but now a few of them, actually 3 or 4, have actually gone and done some research. And I send them, of course, the 9/11 Architects for Truth for anybody that wants to get their eyes open. And 3 or 4 of them have gone to that site, digested the information, and now they time at night looking at other links and talking to me every day about it. So it does have an effect on people when you really get down and talk to them heart to heart and say, hey, this shit is real and it ain't going away. We got to do something about it.
That's
Period.
right. Yeah, and what the really really strange thing about this is it hasn't been going on for 100 years. It hasn't been going on for 500 years. It has been going on for thousands of years. The control of the population and the control of mankind has been going on for a very, very long time.
Well, we've been raped of our future already, Rick. I mean, look at what we've got coming for our future right now for our children. I've been doing some more looking in the last 3 or 4 days on studies on the ocean, buddy, and these are very, very hardcore scientific facts that, now the plankton levels are below 50% what they were 17 years ago. And that alone is, I mean, plankton provides ocean. It's our food source. It's the base of the food source. It provides a good percentage of our oxygen on the planet. And the plankton counts now are 50% of what they were 17 years ago and spiraling downwards. So, boy, if we don't wake up to this real quick, Rick, I mean, this is beyond scary. If I was going to make a horror show, I couldn't come up with a better one because a lot of people are going to end up starving here in the near future.
Right.
And that's not a joke.
No,
very, very serious, folks.
Not at
I
all.
mean, the information we pass, Rick, is stuff that we look at, and the last thing I ever want to do is put out false information when I talk to people. But these studies I'm talking about, you can Google them. They're there.
And a high percentage of the population of the planet are teetering on the edge of homelessness, on the edge of starvation. And this did not happen by happenstance. This did not happen just out of time. This happened through design. This
That's all been planned,
design.
buddy.
Yes, it's an evil design.
Yeah, and it's like I look at everything they've done here in the last 70 years as one great big puzzle, and all the little pieces that they've put out. When those pieces start coming together, buddy, we start to see the picture. And what's happening now, I see all the pieces starting to come together very, very quickly on their side of their agenda. And it's very obvious to us now, at least anybody that's got any kind of an IQ can look at any kind of information on the internet, exactly what they're doing, what their agenda is. And boy, if that doesn't raise your level of anger to a point where you want to fight back against this, I don't know what to say to you. I really don't. Because it's got me to a point where I'm just infuriated, but we can't get mad about it. We got to be smart about it, Rick.
That's right. That's right. We have to be peaceful about it. And we have to change this with love and compassion. We can't change it with anger and with fighting, because that's exactly what they want. And it feeds
right into their hands.
It feeds into that negative energy that they're pushing upon us. We need to expunge that. Get rid of that.
Yeah, I get that all the time on the internet here. Guys are going, get your guns, get ready, we're going to go kill them all. And I'm going, brothers, that's the last thing you want to do, because you will play right into their hands. This has got to be done without violence. And a lot of people say to me, well, that can't be done at this point. And I beg to differ with you, man. There's a lot more of us than there is of them. It just takes unification. And that is going to be our toughest thing that we have to get over, is to put our differences aside and rise as one race, because we are one race. We all bleed the same blood, brother.
Yes, we do. And, guns aren't power. Knowledge is true power.
Well, knowledge alleviates fear.
Yes, absolutely.
And we are a fear-driven society, and that's what of course, that's their biggest weapon against us, period. And what I have found in my life, Rick, is the more knowledge I've gained, the less fear I have of these guys. Because,
same here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all I try and tell people. Learn, really start to comprehend what's going on behind the scenes and just how evil these people are and what they have in plan for in the future for your children and your children's children. And boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, if that doesn't rally us at this point in our lives, when all the evidence is in front of us, then I worry for the human race, buddy. I really do.
Absolutely.
Where's our soul, man?
Yeah, I have friends and family that say, aren't you scared about bringing these things up and putting these things out into the public? No, because this is the whole reason why I'm doing it, because they've held us under fear for so long. This is why we are in the position we're in, because we feared it for so long.
Exactly. Before we go any farther, Rick, I would like to take this opportunity to say hello tonight to the NSA.
And, yes.
Hi guys, how you doing?
All the beautiful alphabet agencies out there.
Yeah. Hope the wife and kids are doing good, and don't eat any GMO foods today, guys. Yeah,
well,
it's really got.
You can if you like. I mean, actually, I have much love for every human being on this planet. Shake these shackles, break this tie that has bound us down for so long. Open your eyes and see. If you're working for somebody like this that is trying to manipulate the human race, eventually they are going to manipulate. They're going to just use you and abuse you and then toss you aside. Wake up.
The madness of these guys, Rick, they're absolutely insane, because right now we are like, I'm going to go back to what Roger said a little earlier tonight in his talk, because I've looked into a lot of the information that Roger talked about. And the fact that we're attacking the biosphere on this planet, that the damage cannot be repaired for literally like years and years and years and years and years it'll take the planet to well, if they wipe us all out, where are they going to live? Where are you going to live, man? Underground? There's no sense to what they're doing. We are killing this planet right now. The oceans are, man, it's not me saying this. I've been talking to a lot of people and gone to a lot of information about exactly what's going on in the ocean. And if half of it is true, Rick, then we are really, really in trouble. And boy, if that doesn't wake us up quick, the fact that 2 or 3 years from now, we're not going to have food on our table, well, then nothing's going to wake us up.
That's right.
The whole biosphere is under attack, buddy, right from the honeybees. Everything they're doing is attacking our biosphere and our food systems. And it's got to be by design. There's no other rhyme or reason to it.
No, there is none. And there is enough things that point to it. I mean,
everything,
yeah, absolutely.
Everything. There isn't anything logical going on in the world right now that is beneficial to the human race. Nothing. No. It's all against us. Well, what does it take to wake up? I mean, I'm not a smart guy, but I got common sense. And common sense tells me that nothing they're doing right now is right. What's wrong with the rest of people on this planet, Rick? I don't get it, man.
Well,
it must be weird or something. I don't know.
Look at what the fluoride does. Look at what fluoride does to people. It makes them pliable and just they don't care. They're apathetic.
Yeah. I published an article in our paper here about 6 months ago about fluoride. We finally got it on our city ballot to get it removed in the next by-election. But I put another article in there 2 weeks ago about a 6-paragraph article they published. And I've had 29 phone calls in 2 days over that article. Rick, people going, wow. I had no idea, because of course I put my name on the bottom of the article, and anybody that wants to find me, they can look me up in the phone book. But I've had 29 phone calls so far. People going, wow, we're going to be voting against this. We had no idea. We're looking at the links, blah, blah, blah. So many people are walking around thinking fluoride's still good for us. Really, they really think that this stuff is good for us. They have not taken the time. They have not taken the time. And really, all you have to do is look into fluoride for 2 or 3 hours on the internet, and you'll just shake your head.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's our responsibility, guys, to go look at this stuff, not to sit and watch TV. It's our responsibility to take a look at what's going on, because you will not become educated watching CNN and watching football games and hockey and getting distracted by mainstream media and mainstream TV and entertainment industry. It's there to distract us.
Yeah, and for the people out there, and even, I don't know if you, well, I think you do know this also, that if you don't mind your water being green, wheatgrass will pull the fluoride out of the water.
I've got a fluoride filter in my house here, Rick, and I won't drink any city water here. But you know what? That's still, we're getting exposed to it because it's being used in produce. It's being used here, and no matter how much you try, you're still being exposed to fluoride.
Absolutely.
Just ludicrous. It's got to be taken right out of our society. It's like Roger was saying earlier tonight, man. It costs the industry thousands and thousands of dollars to dispose of it. Of course, they come up with some stupid scientist that said this stuff is good for teeth. And I've looked at the reports worldwide, Rick, and the difference in decay in teeth from countries that are ingesting fluoride and countries aren't, it's like 0.005% difference. In other words, there is no discernible difference. Yet,
Yes.
of course, we know all the side effects of fluoride and what it is, man, and it's just ludicrous that it's put into our water. So I woke a lot of people up with that one article, and that's all it takes, guys. One article in the local paper where you really put damning information. The paper allowed me to put a couple links in there. People can go to the links and listen to professionals talk themselves. Don't listen to me. Go and listen to what the professionals are saying about this. And if you still want fluoride in your water, well, I got some land I'll sell you in Florida.
About 4 miles off the coast, huh?
Yeah, a little tight land, but it's only good 6 months of the year, Rick. But it's still a nice place to hang out.
Yeah, but you know,
or a bridge. I'll sell you a bridge.
Really, though, you know, people are smart enough to understand this. They are smart enough to understand this. They've just got their blinders on right now.
Yeah, we're so distracted in society. I look why people are blind to this, and it's the distractions that are put in front of us. And what people have to do is realize that we are being distracted. And all it takes, man, is somebody to go, like I said, Rick, just 2 hours on the internet one night, and your whole thinking about world will change.
Right.
And it did that to me. And like I spent 2 hours one night watching 9/11, Architects of Truth. I went and looked at the information. I did a little research. I went, holy shit, my whole life changed that night, because really up to that point, Rick, I was just another one of these dumbed down people. And that was about 6 years ago that I really kind of woke up to what's going on. And before that, honestly, the planes went in the building, knocked them down. Really never even thought about it. But that's all it takes, folks. One evening.
That's right.
And you'll get mad.
That's right. You know, and people, you know, keep listening to Awake Radio. Keep listening to Shiziz Radio. If this is your first time here, you know, you're in for a treat of reality, because we put a lot of information out, a lot of information that the lamestream media will not touch, and it's necessary. We love you. We want you to succeed. We want you to thrive. And there is no thriving as long as we're under this rain. It's just
you know, Rick, every time I go to a store now, I look at little children walking with their parents, and I just inside I'm going, wow, if they only knew what was coming.
Yes.
If they only knew. And it just tears me to pieces, buddy, because I see what's coming for our future children. And it is just something that I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And here our children are going to be living in this cesspool that we're leaving for them. We really have to become active, folks. We have no choice.
Right. That's right. You know, one of my favorite authors, he had a saying, and it goes like this. It says, like it or not, everything is changing. The result will be the most wonderful experience in the history of man, or the most horrible enslavement that you can imagine. Be active or abdicate. The future is in your hands. And that was William Cooper.
Yeah, and it's so true, man. It's like if we don't become active, then someday we're going to have to look at our children and tell them why.
Yeah. And you
why
know,
didn't you do something? We knew about it. We saw it coming.
Yes. And the time is now. We cannot wait another minute. The time is now. And, you know, the intelligence levels of children are so much higher now. And, you know, people say, well, you know, you can't tell the kids that, you know, the skies are dangerous because of the chemtrails, and the food is dangerous because of the GMOs. No, if you talk to these children lovingly and honestly and guide them and give them the true facts, it's not going to give them nightmares at night. You know, this is for real. This has to be done. And these children are smart enough to understand a lot of this now.
Yeah, and a lot of pushback you'll get against that, Rick. Why do you want to tell children about this stuff? Scare the crap out of them, you know. But you know what? You're absolutely right, because they are our future. I had a young lady, a little girl, come on this week, and it was too bad when she got on my show, Rick. She froze right up and just panicked.
Yeah, I listened to that show.
Yeah, you know what, Rick? After the show was over, I sat with her mom and her dad off air, and if I could have recorded the 45-minute conversation that we had with her after we were off air, people would have just loved it. So unfortunately, she froze up, but she really has a lot to say, and she couldn't get any of it out. And I felt so sorry because, you know, I wanted it to go so well. I talked to her off air, and she's just a little firecracker, and she got on the radio there and just froze up. So, oh well.
She's still young yet.
I know. I felt sorry for her, and I wanted her to go so well because she has a way of reaching people's hearts, man. This is coming from an 8-year-old girl. Some of the things she has to say just makes you go, wow, you know. It's time to get active. And she had an incredible effect on me, and I was hoping to get that out for the audience, but we'll take another shot at it in the future here when she gets a little bit more settled.
There you go. And I'm sure, you know, there are a lot of people out there that even though she did have a hard time with it and eventually had to walk away because of her nerves, you know, me being one of them, I really enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed her courage of her being able to at least speak up just a little. You know, just a little.
Yeah, exactly. And I commend her for that, Rick, because it takes, for a child that age, when the realization sunk in that she was on the air talking to people, she showed incredible courage. And I think you're going to hear lots more from that little girl in the future here.
Yes, and I hope that she talks to her friends, and I hope her friends talk to their friends. And, you know, I pray that this spreads like wildfire, because it's necessary. These children not only need to know this, they deserve to know this. This is their world.
It's a sad world, though, Rick, that we have to expose our children to this stuff. You know, none of us were exposed to this as we were raised. I was never exposed to this kind of information.
But the knowledge of
the world has changed.
Yes, the knowledge of this wasn't there then, though, when we were children. You know, I mean, our parents were definitely clouded.
Yeah, but if you put it to them the right way, Rick, and share the information with love, I think they can handle it. And it's necessary that they are told these things now.
Yes.
Because it is the reality of the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, but we will change that. I really believe we will change that.
I honestly believe that too, brother. I mean, I've seen incredible movements against the tyranny that we see in the world right now in the last 3 or 4 months, an incredible rising of individuals and intellectual individuals that are really starting to have their voices heard. And all I can say for 2014, Rick, I just hope it becomes the biggest snowball. It becomes a wave so big that it drowns all these evil, lying, thieving, cheating scum that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And you know, there's still perpetrators out there that are trying to play the doomsday card. You know?
Well, you'll always have them.
Yes. I mean, I just read an article recently about the Vikings. And today was supposed to be the day that the world ended, you know, due to Viking lore. But I mean, those are just stories. You know, I mean, these are just ways of them trying to get a message across to people. I mean, it wasn't about the for real doom and gloom. This is about, you know, an attitude change, a mindset of, you know, being good to your fellow man and you know, letting love drive you.
Look at everything that's going. It's just, I mean, all we are is pawns, man. And that's how we've been treated right from day one. Everything that we do is to pay taxes to governments that create wars, that give it to the banks, man, through the military-industrial complex. It's just a continual cycle. And we've played into it all our lives unknowingly. And boy, when you start to really understand it, man, I'll tell you, it's got to get you active. It has to. It does. If it doesn't, man, you're dead. You don't have a soul.
Yes.
And period.
Yes. And there are a lot of wonderful, loving people out there that are just unaware right now. You know,
But yeah, I agree, Rick. Because like I said, if everybody really, if I could sit and talk to everybody in America for 5 minutes, man, I would jump at the opportunity. Because like I said, so many people, maybe they know there's something wrong. Maybe Mr. Obama lied to us a couple times. Maybe a little bit's going wrong in the government, but everything seems to be okay still. And it's going to take a lot to wake those people up. I think it's going to take the military, because if they're not awoke by now, then they just refuse to look at the information.
yes.
It's there. It's so obvious now. It's not something they can hide anymore. It's being exposed in mainstream. It is everywhere. So take a look, guys. It ain't going away.
You know, what do you think, Barry? What do you think is the anchor behind this long-standing deception of mankind? What do you think the anchor is behind this?
What do you mean the anchor?
What is the true cause of this? Who is really perpetrating this against us?
Well, like I said, Rick, I'm not an expert, but I've done quite a bit of research over the last 5 years, and my understanding of the structure is that you have a group of individuals at the top that are basically psychopath people that do not have souls, do not have any care for you or your children, have an agenda, and they are playing out that agenda right now. And they do it through wars that are create money for the military, which goes into the banking systems. Basically, like I said, we are pawns, and all we do is pay taxes so that the bankers can get rich. And that's basically what it comes down to. So where is the top of the pinnacle? I don't know who is right on the very, very top of the pinnacle, but I know there is people on the very, very top that are pulling the strings. Like I said, I'm not an expert, Rick, but I understand what they're doing and how they've done it. You see all the things they've done here in the last 40, 50 years to bring us to this point in history. It's pretty obvious.
It is. And, you know, now myself, I have a little bit deeper of a feeling of what I think is going on. And if I would have tried to put this message out 10 years ago, I would have been laughed off the street. I would have been locked up in an insane asylum. But honestly, knowing now of what I know and what has happened to me in my lifetime, I believe there is a presence here that has been visiting this planet for a very long time, that is manipulating this race for their own gains, whatever those gains may possibly be. I do not know. But I really, really, truly feel that it goes much, much deeper than man himself.
I think we are in a battle of evil against good, period.
Yes.
The
Absolutely.
people that we're dealing with are beyond evil. These people make Hitler look like a Boy Scout. And that is really hard. It's hard for me to understand human beings, Rick, that don't have a soul, that are soulless people. And whether they got run over by a truck when they were a child, or they were beaten, or whatever brought them to this point in their life that they think the way they do, I have a hard time wrapping myself around that, really understanding their brain set. But they are real, and they are there, and their agenda is being played out. Everything that's happening on this planet right now is to kill humans. There is no other explanation, period.
Absolutely.
Nothing makes sense. So
I mean,
you got to look at it, man.
For those who don't know what Agenda 21 is, please, please, please go to Google Agenda 21. Please do.
Well, they put it right in the Georgia Guidestones, buddy.
Absolutely.
Their agenda is 500 million people on this earth, and that makes the earth manageable, and that means a lot of us have got to go.
That's right. That's 500.
And I'll bet you we're not in the 500 million they're going to be staying, Rick. I think we're off that list, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think so too. Yeah. But you know what? A big surprise to them. You know, they're never going to get their little list that they got. That's not even an hour and a half away from where I live. The Georgia Guidestones. They're never going to get that fulfilled.
Well, that's what we're here for, buddy. We got to put a stop to it.
Yes. And we
And
will.
like I said, I've never felt that there's more important that we can do in our lives right now. This is probably the most important thing that I can do right now is just try and share a little bit of feelings and knowledge with people.
It absolutely is. And you know, I so much appreciate you being here tonight and listening to you the other night. And I'm so glad you are here at Awake Radio. It just fills my heart with joy. I am so happy for this because you are very direct. You are very forward about talking about the issues. You don't show the fear factor that a lot of people do, and there are a lot of people out there that do understand what's going on and are afraid to speak up.
You
You
know,
know,
Ricky, my family's told me that I'm sticking my neck out. My sisters warned me, friends are warning me, people on the internet are telling Barry, you're sticking your neck out there. You know, just they're watching you, they're listening to you, they're aware of what you're doing. But you know what? I really don't give a damn. I am
I'm,
not going to shut up. And if they want to come and kill me tomorrow, Rick, for what I'm doing right now, well, come on in, boys, because I'll take one of you out with me. Mr. NSA, come on over tomorrow because I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to put my foot to the pedal. We all
that's
need
right.
to do that, man.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
fear, don't let fear stop you, man. Fear
No,
is bullshit. We got children and a future to think about right now. Who cares? Who cares
that's
if you
right.
got a new car, man? I don't care about a new car. I care about this planet, man. Every time I touch this earth, I feel her pain, man.
That's right.
Unbelievable, Rick.
That's right. She's crying, and she
She's
needs our
crying to us.
help.
We got to listen to her, guys.
Yes,
Where are we going to live? What
that's right.
about
You know, I
our
mean,
children, man? Our children. Think about that. Think. Holy shit, man.
the
Excuse me.
natives that were here long before white people stepped foot on this continent. They had it right. They knew exactly what they were doing. You know, it's a give and take, and it's a respect for Mother Earth herself. Because if you don't respect the planet that you live on and the beautiful, beautiful things that this planet has to offer, then you are just dead inside.
Yeah, and we've all been duped into it, Rick. You know, you got to realize that, you know, we've all, like I said, right from birth, we've been duped into a commercialized world
Oh yes,
controlled by corporations. We've been brainwashed through TV. We've been brainwashed through the media. We've been brainwashed through the entertainment industry. This is what we need. This is how life is. And that is so far from the truth, guys. You know, I mean, who cares? Like I said, who cares if we have a new car? Who cares if you have a big house? Who cares? What is that going to do in 3 or 4 years from now when the food chain completely breaks down? We see what's happening right now with the honeybees, Rick. I mean, that alone, if that doesn't shock us into reality, Einstein
oh
said, man,
my,
and Einstein was right on the nose. He says, if the honeybees disappear, then the human race will disappear. Well, the honeybees are disappearing, guys,
yes they
by
are,
the billions. For
yes they
God's
are,
sakes, for God's sakes,
yeah.
what
I
does it
mean,
take? What does it
yeah.
take?
I mean, it's not like you know. Sometimes
I
I
want
just
to
love to get
scream,
up and
man.
just
I want to
yeah.
scream.
That's right.
Like Christ, we should all be screaming at the top of our voices.
We should. We absolutely should. And it's going to take it's going to take something monumental to get the entire race to see that this control mechanism that has been used upon us for a very long time and that it needs broken.
I think you see the human race wake up this year, Rick, when hyperinflation really starts to set in and we see food prices start to spiral right through the roof and our gas costs, everything's going to go right through the roof. Um, the middle class is going to be attacked in ways that they've never been attacked before because that's what the government wants. They want to control the middle class.
Yes, they
And
do.
we're seeing it already, man. Every time I go to the grocery store, I see a rise in food prices, and I am not kidding you. You must
Well,
be seeing the same thing because
yes,
it's everywhere, and it's really going to
absolutely.
escalate this year, Rick. And I can't visualize. I'm really having a hard time visualizing what's going to be like in 2 years from now, or even 3 years from now. What are we going to be dealing with?
Right. I mean, I,
Unbelievable.
I'm I'm having a hard time seeing this summer. I mean, you know, something big is occurring right now. I mean, there are people on the inside of the financial industry who are committing suicide. They
Yeah,
know something big is about to happen.
yeah, I agree. And I don't want to get really, really deep into what I think here, Rick, because it probably blow a few people's minds. But I agree with you 100%. Everything that I've comprehended and studied and looked I'm not an expert by any shape or form, but I have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. And man, I see an incredible escalation right now on both sides. We're in an all-out war, and people got to realize that we're in an all-out war, and a lot of people don't. So here we are, guys, just trying to tell you what we think. What you want to do with what we tell you tonight, that's up to you. But I tell you, man, we are in trouble.
We definitely are. And, Alex Jones has it right. We are in a war, and they want our minds. They want our minds totally. It's easy to control the body when you have control of the mind.
Well,
The body does what you want.
Take a look what they're doing in the school systems in the States, man. Same thing's going on in Canada. Look at the core program that's going on in the States and how they're indoctrinating children. How they're giving children vaccinations in California without parents' consent. I mean,
Yes.
how far and what is going on in our society? Why don't people stand up and say, hey, this is BS? I
That's
just
right.
don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm some days I just shake my head, Rick. I mean, I see all this happening, and it concerns me right to the core. And yet a lot of people are just still walking around in a cloud, bud. So
The
all we can do is
complacency.
keep talking. All we can do is keep talking and hope that we can wake a few more up every day.
The complacency is so monumental. And,
Well, look how we've been dummied down, man. I mean,
yes.
oh shit! Look what's
And,
gone into our food and into our water in the last 40 years in the United States of America alone.
right.
Unbelievable.
It is.
Unbelievable.
It really is.
We could get into reciting facts. I mean, everybody's probably aware of how bad health situation in America is. The sickest nation in the world now.
Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
3 generations ago, like um, Roger was saying one night, and I agree with him, and I've done the research. 3 generations ago, you were the healthiest nation in the world. So in 3 generations, you've seen a total reversal. You really got to look at all the mitigating factors and why it's happened. Boy, oh boy.
Yes, and there was a reason behind allowing us to be who we were 3 generations ago. It was to to have the control. It was to get the control, to get people on their side, to believe that what they say is what should be going on.
Yeah,
And
well, I mean, everything's good, man. We got a car, we got a house, we got a job. Kids are in school. Everything seems to be fine, but they're killing us slowly. And that's what you got
absolutely,
to understand is that, if you're going to kill people off in mass, you're not going to all of a sudden kill them off 2 or 3 days because they're going to freak. But if you slowly kill them through GMOs, through chemtrails, through everything else they're doing, attack our health in unbelievable ways. I mean, you see the rise in disease in the States. It's just unbelievable. And that's their agenda, Rick.
yes, absolutely. And there's been so many people over the years who have understood what we need to do and have tried to push the message out to everyone else, and they're just silenced. And you can't be afraid anymore. Don't be afraid anymore. You know what? If you come to me and you tell me enough's enough, you've said enough, I'm not going to stop. And you're going to have to put a bullet in my head to stop me. And there's going to be someone right behind me to take my place.
That's why I got so inspired with what Roger Landry's doing with the Liberty Beacon, Rick. We're finally, I see a vision, and he shared it with me the first time I met him. And I see it all happening now where we're gathering together um, all kinds of liberty-minded groups that will have their voices heard under one banner. And that to me has been one of the most exciting things that I've seen develop here in the last couple of months. Some of the people that have come on board are incredible individuals, Rick, and
Beautiful.
more coming all the time. So
That is
we
excellent.
need to raise, we need to have our voices unified. And like you said, there's all kinds of liberty-minded groups, all kinds of people out there talking. But if you just get a few people talking over here and a few people talking over there, they're not really going to get heard. But if all those people come together and talk as one, well, they're going to have to listen to us, brother.
Yes, they are. I mean, this is nothing less than dead serious now. We cannot wait any longer. The time is now. It's our lives that are on the line. It's not just our freedom. It's not just our liberties. It is our basic human essence is being destroyed. They want to take it away from us. They want to keep us as slaves, keep us in a small number so it's easier to control us. But I really honestly don't think that they truly understand the proportion of the human,
what they're doing.
The strength inside an actual human being.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can keep trying. You can keep trying to do what you're doing, and you think you're going to knock 6.5 billion people off this planet and still have control of the race? Are you insane? We're still going to be exactly what we are. We're still not going to settle for this. We're not going to settle for being slaves. We're not going to settle for being manipulated. It's too late now. We know too much. Get over it. Drop it. Get past it. Learn that it's us now. It's us. Love and compassion are going to be what take us to the next level, not war and strife and slavery.
So that's a monumental challenge for the human race here this year, Rick. That, like I said, we have to come together as one people, and that, like I said, is going to be a challenge for the human race. But I believe in the human soul and the human. What's the word I'm looking for? I lost the word I was looking for. Anyways, you have to have faith in the human race to rise against this, because if we don't, like you said, I know the urgency that you talk about, and I feel that urgency, and I share it exactly the way you see it, but that this isn't a lot of time left to really stand up against these guys. It's like 2014, I keep coming back to saying that this is going to be a pinnacle year, because I feel that they're going to pull off a very, very major false flag this year so they can get the population back in control. So let's watch out for that, because it's something I see them doing right now.
Yes.
A nuclear bomb in an American city, boy, and we'd all be running for FEMA camps, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It wouldn't take nothing. It wouldn't take nothing to persuade the American population if a nuclear bomb went off in an American city. Well, you know, they're missing nukes, man. I mean, this is all within the realms of what these guys can do, because you're dealing with psychopaths. They killed 3,000 on 9/11. I don't think 3 million or 3,000 makes any difference to them at all.
Absolutely
it's
not.
Just numbers. Just numbers.
Yes. I mean, that 9/11 was just another cog in the machine for them. You know, that was just another step towards control, towards complete control.
I can't believe the American people are still letting 9/11 go, man.
I know.
I mean, it blows me away. It just absolutely blows me away. I mean, there's just absolutely no fact to what the government did that day. Their story has no fact at all, period. End of conversation. Yet the American people go on every day going, oh, it's all good. You know, so what? They killed 3,000. Well, we made some money. Went to Afghanistan, killed all those bad guys.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
It was a couple handfuls of Arabs led by a man hiding in a cave in Afghanistan.
With box cutters.
Yes, with box cutters.
Penetrated the best air defense system in the world.
And, you know, I lived in Pennsylvania at that time. And we went over there, over to where the crash site was supposed to be at, okay? And, I mean, it's just a big hole in the ground. There was no metal, nothing. Nothing.
Well, I'll tell you, if I remember in an airplane, man, I want that Arab that flew that plane into the White House or into the Pentagon, and I want him to be my pilot, because that guy pulled off some incredible maneuvers, man.
Yes, he
did,
didn't he?
Nothing any other pilot in the world said they could do. So, boy, if I was in an airplane, he'd be the guy I'd want flying.
You ain't kidding. That man was precision personified, boy.
What a pilot, man. Couldn't fly a Cessna, but no problem with a Boeing 767, 180-degree cock turn, 7 Gs or 6.5 Gs, fly at 100 feet off the ground for a quarter mile. I mean, incredible, incredible. I'd love to shake his hand, man.
And
And
then
then he
fit,
made the plane, and then he made the wings. I loved how he made the wings when the plane fold in, and he made the tail come down, man.
that's right. And
Oh,
it all
that
went
was
in this
cool.
big
That was
6-foot
cool.
hole.
8 by 12 feet, or
8 by
what was it,
12. There you go.
8
Yeah,
by
it wasn't
12 or
very
8 by
big.
14, I think it was.
It
Pretty
wasn't very
amazing,
big.
man. I'll
Not
tell ya.
compared to a commercial airline. No. No way possible.
I think Chris Angel was in that plane or something. It's pretty amazing. But it's true. I mean, the government said it's true, so they would not lie to us, guys.
No, that's right.
Anyways, man, when I first looked at 9/11, Rick, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I just sat there one night and said, how could I be so dumb? And then, of course, I had to go look at it for about 4 or 5 days. I studied every link I could possibly get on it, and man, unbelievable. That's all I can say. That they're still walking around letting these guys walk. Mr. Bush should be in jail. He should be hung. Treasonous
Absolutely.
bastard, man. Treasonous bastard. You heard that, NSA? Come and shoot me. Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
Well, I mean, that's just it. These perpetrators, these evil people, or whatever they may be, they are not infallible either, and they've made mistakes that are showing themselves now. I mean, just so many different little things that at first, you would never think about. And then after people actually got involved and started saying, there's no way that these buildings could collapse from an airplane hitting it. They were built so they wouldn't.
Oh, I know. I mean, Rick, I went on, as soon as I started looking at these links on 9/11, I went and studied the design of the towers and how they were built, man. And it is absolutely, there is just no physical way those buildings came down the way they did. It's a physical impossibility. Now, that there alone, I mean, when you look at the physics of what happened, absolutely, totally impossible to happen. Okay? Never happened before, will never happen again. Those buildings were designed to take 180 mile an hour winds and a 7 magnitude earthquake, and it's just they dragged it up and bragged it up, and boy oh boy, they sure came down fast. What, 9.5 seconds?
Wow.
What happened to all that steel, man?
Yeah, and there's no possible way that rate of fall would happen. Yeah, I mean that steel would have had to turn into clay, in order for that speed of a drop. That's not possible. Not physically possible.
Well, and then of course the pile of rubble. What was the pile of rubble when the buildings hit the ground? And I think they said it was about 5.5 stories or 4.5 story pile of rubble.
Yeah.
Any buildings that size collapse would have created a pile of rubble approximately 30 stories high.
That's
right. They couldn't find a piece of concrete left in the building. Vehicles were scorched with 1,800 degree temperatures 2.5 blocks away from ground zero.
That's right.
How do you explain that? I mean, there's just thousands of things they cannot even begin to explain. The molten steel, everything about it is just, I mean, how can people sit there and believe that the government is telling you the truth when every piece of scientific evidence says bullshit?
That's right. It was pulled. They used thermite. It was pulled, and it's just that simple,
And actually, they used thermate. They added sulfur.
Yes.
They added sulfur to the thermite, and that causes the thermite. It creates a compound called thermite. It burns at 4,200 degrees, Rick. So it'll melt steel in seconds.
Yes.
So hence you had pools and pools of molten steel running down the center of the buildings. I mean, NASA took pictures of aerial photographs of the site 3 weeks after it happened, and they were still reading temperatures of 12 and 1,300 degrees below the building. So that's a pretty good fire from kerosene, I'll tell you, my friend.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, pretty good kerosene. I'd like to get a gallon of that stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Exactly. Those are facts, eh? Now you can go on Google right now and punch up the photos, man. 3 weeks after it happened, 1,200 degrees, 1,300 degrees. It's factual. How can you defy that?
And
how can you explain it?
Not to mention all the witness testimonies of being down at the ground level and hearing the explosions underneath them.
It's all documented, Rick. It's just like I said, there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of information that will absolutely turn the government story upside down. Anybody that doesn't look at it and does still believe that the government is telling them the truth about 9/11, boy, oh boy, you really don't have, I've got to say, you don't have an IQ, because it is so damning, the information.
It is there. It is there for anyone that wants to look at it.
And so that really got me going, buddy. When I started looking at that, I started looking at other things like Bohemian Grove and the Bilderberg Group and how it's structured. Then I started looking at bloodlines. And boy,
Yes,
everything I study seems to come together.
it sure does. It sure does. I mean, I went through the whole gambit. I was mad when I first started realizing what was happening with us. I was mad. I wanted to grab somebody and beat them. I was
Yeah,
that mad about it. And
yeah,
then it hurt me a lot. For a while, I dealt with being hurt about this a lot. How could they possibly do this to us? How is it possible? Now I'm resolved to it now.
yeah.
I'm not mad about it anymore. Well, I mean, I'm still mad about it, but not in the way that I was at the beginning. I mean, I am just resolved to getting this information out to people and having people understand that this is all a contrived conspiracy against us.
Yeah,
You know,
I share your feelings there, Rick. I mean, I was mad as hell when I first learned about it, but now I've just um, focused on sharing information. We can't get mad about it. That's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to do anything for people that listen.
no,
It's
it
just
doesn't serve
sharing the
us.
information. It doesn't serve us anything doing that, but it sure, if it doesn't make you mad, buddy, then I don't know. I
Yes,
can't. I mean, it makes me it infuriated me when I started to realize that. Holy smokes! Like, why didn't I look at this before? And how come I've been duped for 3 or 4 years? I think it was 2004 that I actually sat down and started looking at the information, and I've never looked at government the same since.
yes, yeah. It's been about 6 years for me too. I mean,
But on the brighter side of things, I read a report today from South Africa where they were using medical marijuana oil and people and actually have seen it eliminate the HIV virus in people. So I'm going to get that link and send it to you after the show here, Rick, because that would be one that
excellent,
you'd be liking to see. Pretty
excellent.
cool. That was a good story to hear today. And I
Yes,
got to look at good stories every day, and I got to laugh
sure.
every day because if I don't, I'll go nuts.
That's right. I I agree.
I will, man, because
I
we're in an
absolutely agree.
insane world, man.
And one of the best stories I've heard over the last year or so is Rick Simpson. Rick Simpson's story. I mean, I know he's still struggling with the Canadian government and everything about this, but his testimony is just unbelievable, and the
Well, then
testimony of others with him.
I invite you to tune in on Thursday night. Then Rick is Rick is going to be my guest on my show this Thursday night for 2 hours. I have Rick Simpson
Wonderful,
coming on this Thursday night. So tune in, guys. Awake Radio Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific. Rick Simpson will be my guest for 2 hours. And
excellent.
boy, I'll tell you, I've done 5 or 6 shows with Rick. He was at my house this year. Rick, he came out to British Columbia and we did a tour of BC. And I had the pleasure of spending a month with Rick. I got to really know him well. He's a very, very good friend of mine. And boy, when we get on the radio, look out, because we really get going. So be forewarned. You'll hear some pretty. Rick is going to bring us up to date on what he's doing in Europe right now. He is having meetings with governments every day. I had an hour conversation with the other day on Skype, and he's going to disclose on the radio on Thursday night, Rick, some of the exciting things that are happening in Europe.
Beautiful.
So
I cannot
tune
wait.
in, guys. Yeah, tune in, guys.
That's right. And that's Thursday night, folks. 8 Eastern time. That's right before my show at 10 o'clock. So 8 Eastern time.
It's a big puzzle with Barry Prince, and the show will be called "Running from the Cure."
Absolutely
Imagine
beautiful.
that, eh?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. That's a great movie, by the way.
Rick, like I said, I knew quite a bit about medical before I met Rick, but I had the pleasure of meeting him about a year ago, and got to be really good friends with him via the internet, and then ended up inviting him out to BC, and then we arranged a tour. We did 9 cities in 14 days and drove them all over British Columbia, and boy, I'll tell you, it's one of the most enjoyable experiences of my life. Rick got to meet quite a few naturopath doctors and all the people in Vancouver that are involved in the movement, and rumor has it that he might just come back to BC here again for another tour, but I don't want to spare any rumors right now.
Right. Well,
But he will be on with me Thursday night, guys, and you got to listen because Rick has lots to say.
Yes. I will definitely be listening in. I'm sure of that, and I hope everyone else out there will also be listening in because This is monumental. It really is. This is something that is very big, and this is something that's been been taught to us to be a negative thing for a very, very long time. And it's not. It's just another small thing that this beautiful planet has given us. And there's a reason behind us having this. There's a reason behind it.
And there
And
was a reason for it taken away from us, Rick.
yes, absolutely.
You know, this plant has more potential for the human race than any other plant on the earth, as far as I'm concerned. I just read a report on detoxification of nuclear contaminated soil by the hemp plant released by a Japanese scientist. And I was just looking at that before I got on the air.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube right now,
Yes.
Rick. You can punch it up. And I forget his name, but just punch in the effect of hemp on radiation contaminated soil, and punch in the current date, and they'll bring you up 2 reports on it, and they were really cool. I just got to glance at them, but I'm going to go back to them after the show.
Well, I saw one about a month ago, and they were talking about they want to try to plant fields all around
Right.
Fukushima, on the outside of Fukushima.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. There's already been in Spain now. I'll have to go back into YouTube, but I was reading a report there about a year ago by a group in Spain that had done the same test, where they'd found radiation in soil and they planted hemp plants. And basically it took the radiation right out of the soil in 2 years. They do that with lots of toxic soil, man. They've had tests where they've done planted hemp plants on top of soil that's been contaminated by an oil station, where they've pumped gas for years, and in 4 or 5 years, basically the first 10 or 12 feet of that soil has been completely detoxified. The roots go way deep in hemp. That's the beauty of it, man. They
Yes.
don't grow wide; they go deep,
That is
and they have
beautiful.
incredible effects on the soil. So
Wow.
it's something that the earth is going to need more and more and more, man. I visualize a planet with thousands and hundreds of thousands of acres of hemp growing. We don't need to cut down trees, man.
No, not at all.
Period. We don't need to make cotton.
Not at all. You know, we were. I was listening earlier to the Knights of the Round Table on Shaziz's radio this morning, and they were talking about the types of this pop motor that they're building. You know, more free energy, of course, and he said about it being so heavy and stuff. So I put in a chat box, well, you know, why not use some type of hemp polymer? I mean, it's like a quarter of the weight
And
of
stronger than steel.
Steel, yes, and stronger than steel, yes,
Well, 4 times as strong as steel.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Well, another example is hempcrete, man. You know, I mean, look what they can do with hempcrete. Look at that for a product. Now in Vancouver, there's a guy that's actually distributing it, and we're going to look at trying to get a little bit of a bit of it brought up here and get one of the builders to build a house in it. We need to set examples in the society of what can be done with these products. It needs to be brought back into our society more now than ever before in history, Rick. It has so many answers for the problems we have.
Absolutely.
50,000 uses of the hemp plant, guys. I mean, it could virtually heal this planet from the inside out. But I don't want to get too deep into that, but I'll save it. He'll fill your ears, boy, I'll tell you.
Well, you know.
But yeah, it's inspiring. When I think about
It
what we
is.
need to do right now and the answers to all these problems that we have on this planet, well, you know, that plant alone holds the answers to so many of our problems. So the sooner it's brought back, guys, the sooner the problems will start going away.
That's right, you know, and the powers that be that were, I should say, because they are slowly losing their grip. They're losing their control, and they know it. That's why they're in panic mode right now. They know they're losing their grip. They know we're starting to break these chains, so to speak. And you know, I mean, it's going to happen. You know, you can try to prolong it as much as you like. Whoever you are out there, you know, I'm telling you, dead up. You can try to prevent it for as long as you can. You're not going to be able to. We will prevail. And it is just that simple. We will prevail. And I implore everyone out there, man, I mean, just do your research. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. You know, get this information out there in the public. Get everyone to understand exactly what is happening. Because it's your life that is at stake. And it's the life of this beautiful planet that is at stake. And the people that have contrived this, they don't care. They don't care about this planet. They don't care about your life. It's time to take a stand. We have no choice.
I agree. I gotta go use the bathroom here real quick.
Well, okay. We'll go.
I'm gonna disappear here for about 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay. We'll go ahead and take a break, Barry. I'll go ahead and put a couple tunes up here, and
I didn't want to share that with you, but
well, go ahead and do what you need to do, and we'll talk to you in a few minutes. Okay.
Okay. You're right back.
All right. Thanks, Barry. And you are listening to a Change Perspective here simulcast on awakeradio.u.
Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy.
back here with Barry. Well, Barry, you know, we were talking during a break, and I really think that as a species, I think we're going to break this, but I think it's going to take something really dramatic to happen first before we all snap into it. You know what I mean? And get it, and know we have to change it as a race. We're so manipulated.
Yeah, I know. The problem with that, Rick, that I see is that when they do bring the hammer down, they're going to bring it down in such a way that there's going to be such tyranny and confusion amongst the general population that they will be able to be coerced into just about anything the government says. I.e., we know right now that the economies in the world are all on the verge of collapse. There is absolutely no doubt that our monetary systems cannot keep going the way they are. So to me, that would be the number one tool they could use against this, Rick, because of course, if the American dollar collapses, a lot of the other economies in the world are going to follow suit, and we could literally have chaos in 24 hours. So if you create a situation like that, and people are thrown into a state of chaos, when people's minds are in a state of chaos, they're very, very easy to coerce into something they would not normally accept. And that's my biggest fear, is they pull off an attack like this on our economy, where people cannot go get food, they cannot turn on their lights, there's no gas in the car, and you're looking at survival. And the government's going to come along and go, hey guys, you know what? We kind of figured something like this might happen one day, but just because we're really good people, we built these camps for you.
Yeah.
So just let's go to these camps for a while, and when everything straightens out, we'll look after you in the meantime. You can go home again. But of course, we know you'll never go home again.
Right.
And that's my biggest fear. I see them pulling something like this off. It's right up their agenda, and it's right on the pinnacle right now. I mean, look at our economies, man. Look what happened to the Dow here a couple of weeks ago. It's just some kind of indication. Argentina, man, they're at 40% inflation here. Unbelievable. Their dollar has devalued 40% in the last 3 months.
Wow.
I mean, it's happening all over the world right now, Rick, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. There's all kinds of indicators that we're into a monetary collapse right now, and people don't recognize them.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel they're going to use.
Yeah, apparently I think there already are people realizing it, because the rash of suicides just of bankers alone has went up humongously. I mean, 8 in 6 days? Wow.
I'm talking about just the general population, though, Rick.
I know.
Sure,
I
a
know.
lot of us are aware of it. There's lots of people that are, but I think the general population still thinks that everything's going to be fine, that nothing can happen. The government will look after us. No matter what goes on, the government can handle it. Well, let me tell you something, friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's their cause. They're the cause.
Of course, this is what they're going to do. You know, I envision them doing things like, you know, if they wanted to kill up the population, well, how would you do it? You'd encircle a city and collapse the dollar. In 72 hours, you'd have thousands of Americans killing each other.
Yes.
Boy, I'll tell you, there's all kinds of scenarios they could pull off right now. We're in such a volatile situation that any one of these scenarios they could pull off would put us in a situation, Rick, that they could manipulate millions of people. So that's what I see coming, brother.
You know, that's all the more reason to get the message out as fast as possible to as many people as possible, because news does travel. You know, word of mouth is more powerful than pretty much any other type of communications that's on this planet.
Yeah, it's talking to your neighbor, getting to know your neighbor, man. We don't do that anymore in this world, buddy. We don't. I remember when I was a kid, I knew every neighbor for 2 blocks around my house. And our neighbors got together, and we cared about each other, and your neighbors watched out for each other.
That's right.
We've gone 180 degrees away from that, and that's what we need to do, folks.
Yes.
Learn to love your neighbor. Say hello to him. Get to know him.
I mean,
because when things go south, they're the people you're going to depend on.
That's right. That's right. They could have your back one day. That's right.
Exactly. So
I'm really concerned about that too. You know, I don't want to see the masses, you know, because I don't want to see the masses be controlled like that, because when it happens, it's just going to be a regretful chaos.
I know what I feel like, Rick, when I see one child hurt, and it breaks my heart. And I know that right now thousands of children are being killed and abused in this world, and what's coming down in the future for our children is just ludicrous. And my heart really, really goes out to them. But I am so concerned about our future generations that I just find myself spending more and more time trying to spread information and knowledge, man, because what else can we do? We're such a situation now that it's something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, but here we are, right dab smack in the middle of it. Boy, oh boy, my friend. I'm going to get off here pretty quick because I'm getting pretty pissed off and emotional about this whole scenario that I'm seeing unfold in front of my eyes, man. It's just beyond what I can comprehend. It shakes me to the core, my friend.
And just keep doing what you're doing, Barry. You know, don't lose faith and keep doing what you're doing. That's the most important thing, I think.
Well, some days we feel like we're just drowning, but
It can be
that
hard.
just inspires me. It just inspires me to get off my feet and get more and more active, man.
Excellent. That's great, Barry. That's my mindset exactly. And you know, I think prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. You know.
Well, we have prepared a little bit, Rick. I hate to say that, but we have prepared. And like I said, I'm never going to bow to any man. And if the things really do go bad, which I really, really hope they don't, but if they do go bad, I won't be slave to any man. I'm 59 years old now, man. It doesn't matter what happens in my life. It's what we're fighting for the future right now that's more important than anything.
I absolutely.
We both, you know, you're probably up there too, Rick, and we've lived a good part of our lives, you know, and I've enjoyed my life on this planet. But I cannot see the same future for my children.
No.
So that's why we're here, my friend. And
that's right.
Why I will continue doing what I'm doing, even though some days you feel like you're drowning. You feel like, wow.
Well, we definitely appreciate what you're doing, Barry. Definitely, Barry. And I'm going to try to keep doing what I'm doing too, you know. We got to get it out there. Got to wake them up.
Yeah, and then every time I get depressed, Rick, I just go on the internet and I go to my medical marijuana sites and I read a little clip about a little girl being cured of brain cancer when medical person sent her home. Dad was living in Kansas, couldn't get medical down there, went up to Colorado, got his little girl on oil, and 8 weeks later the tumor was gone out of her brain. I read stories about that in the morning, buddy, and I'll tell you, that if that doesn't lift your soul, that's how I try and start my day. I try and start my day with an enlightening story, man, because there's so much crap out there right now, and we're being hit from every direction, man. It's like there's so much confusion, so much information coming at us. We're in a state of confusion 24/7, and it's all by design, of course. But I find it really necessary to look at something inspiring in the morning and also look at something funny and have a chuckle. And you'll be able to handle the BS that we got to handle every day.
Right.
Just a few tips. Seems to work for me, buddy, I'll tell you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Barry, I really appreciate you being on here with me tonight. And it's Thursday at what time, Barry?
5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Rick Simpson will be on with me for 2 hours. And I'm so looking forward to having the gentleman on the radio with me again. We haven't done a show now in about 3 or 4 months, so I'm looking forward to it, folks.
Yeah,
and
I'm definitely looking
please
forward
tune in.
to it too.
Yeah, he will definitely inspire and bring some inspiration and hope for the future and things he has to say to you.
Excellent.
And some of the progress he's making right now in Europe, guys, you're going to want to hear about that because some of the things he divulged to me here in the last couple of days have been very, very inspiring. Going on inside of governments and mainstream media over there, it is growing exponentially. So the wave is going to grow, guys, and eventually it's going to cover all these corrupt people that have put a stop to this incredible plant on this planet. And we will have our way, and we will see a restoration of the planet. That's my hope, and that's my prayer. And the one thing I keep getting back to, Rick, that has the power to do that is the hemp plant. So let's really look into that, guys, in the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
Anybody's got cancer, don't let them go get chemotherapy, for God's sakes.
That's the worst.
Because I've seen it cure cancer in people, buddy, and there's nothing better in life.
That's right. Hemp oil. And so much more what we can do with hemp. I mean, just the economies would recover, easily.
We don't have to cut down another tree. We don't have to cut down another tree on this planet.
Nope.
Totally eliminate the use of logs. Well, yeah, they're the lungs of our planet, man. I mean, I wish somebody would make me prime minister of the world for a week, Rick. Boy, would I see some changes real quick. Just give me divine power for 1 week, and there'd be some monumental changes on this planet, my friends. What a fallacy, eh? Never happened.
All right, take care of yourself, Barry. Please come
back.
I'm
gonna bow out, guys, tonight. Thanks for having me on, Rick, and let me share a few of my thoughts and concerns. Always good to be on with you, buddy.
All right, definitely good to be on with you, and I'm sure there are a lot of other people out there that love to hear what you have to say.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks a lot. And like I said, please join me on Thursday night. You'll really enjoy what Rick has to say, and I look forward to talking with you guys then. Have a good night, Rick, and we will talk to you again, brother.
All right, you too, Barry.
Bye-bye.
It's Barry Prince, everybody.
You're listening to A Change of Perspective with Rick Rittenauer.
I sometimes feel like an alien creature for which there is no earthly explanation. Sure, I have human form, walking erect with opposing digits, but my mind is upside down. I feel like a run-on sentence in a punctuation-crazy world, and I see the world around me like a mad collective dream. An endless stream of people move like ants on the freeway, cell phones, PCs, and digital displays. In money we trust, we'll find happiness. Like a genetically modified, irradiated Big Mac is somehow symbolic of food. Morality is legislated, prisons overpopulated, religion is incorporated, the profit motive has permeated all activity. We pay our government to let us park on the street. And war is the biggest money maker of all. We all know miscellany only comes from being small. Politicians and prostitutes are comfortable together. I wonder if they talk about the strange change in the weather. This government was founded by, of, and for the people, but everybody feels it like a giant open sore. They don't represent us anymore. And blaming the president for the country's woes is like yelling at a puppet for the way it sings. Who's the man behind the curtain pulling the strings? A billion people sitting watching their TV in the room that they call living. But as for me, I see living as loving. And since there is no living room, I sit on the grass under a tree, dreaming of the way things used to be. Pre-industrial revolution. Which of course was before the rivers and oceans and skies were polluted, before Parkinson's and mad cows and all the convoluted cacophony of bad ideas like skyscrapers and tree paper and earth rapers like Monsanto and DuPont had their way, as they continue to today. This was pre-us, back when the buffalo roamed and the Indian's home was the forest and God was nature and heaven was here and now. Can you imagine clean water, food, and air, living in community with animals and people who care? Do you dare to feel responsible for every dollar you lay down? Are you going to make the rich man richer, or are you going to stand your ground? You say you want a revolution, a communal evolution, to be a part of the solution? Maybe I'll be seeing you around.
drinks to go expired. Think I'm falling asleep like so many nights before. Far from alright, yet I'm sitting tight, always waiting for her to arrive. Give me a sign, let our worlds realign. I am trying, yet I'm still one step behind. So come and look for me, I'll help you see. Just let me remind you how it feels. We'll find our way and fly away, and I'll be around you night and day. Come and look for me. Colder, it's raining again, I've got no other place to go. Getting older, still hoping to win, looking for a place to grow. Give me a sign, got my life on the line. I am trying, yet I'm still one step behind. So come and look for me, I'll help you see. Just let me remind you how it feels. We'll find our way and fly away, and I'll be around you night and day. So come and look for me. Come and look for me, I'll help you see. Just let me remind you how it feels. We'll find our way and fly away, and I'll be around you night and day. So come and look for me, I'll help you see. Just let me remind you how it feels. We'll find our way and fly away, and I'll be around you night and day. So come and look for me.
I want to start by giving what may be to many of you a new definition of the word myth. As normally used, the word myth means an idle tale, a fable, a falsehood, or an idea that's out of date, something untrue. But there is another, older and stricter use of the word myth, whereby it doesn't mean something untrue, but it means an image in terms of which people make sense of life and of the world. Supposing, for example, you don't understand the technicalities of electricity, and somebody wants to explain them to you. He wants to explain about the flow of currents. Well, to do that, he compares electricity with water. And because you understand water, you get some idea about the behavior of electricity. Or if an astronomer wants to explain to you what he means by expanding space, he'll use the metaphor of a balloon, a black balloon with white spots on it. The white spots represent the galaxies. And then if you blow up the balloon, they all get further away from each other at the same speed as the balloon blows up. In neither case are we saying that electricity is water or that the universe is a balloon with white spots on it. We are saying it's something like it. And so in the same way, the human being has always used images to represent his deepest ideas of how the universe works and what man's place in it is. And tonight I'm going to discuss certain aspects of two of the greatest myths in this sense of the word which have influenced mankind's thinking. First of all, the myth of the universe as an artifact, as something made, as a carpenter makes tables, chairs, and houses, or as a potter makes pots, or as a sculptor makes figurines. And on the other hand, the image of the world as a drama, in which all the things in the world are not made but acted in the same way as a player acts parts. For these are the two great images which govern respectively the religions of the West, descending from Hebraism, that is to say, Hebraism itself, Christianity, and Islam, and on the other hand, the myth which governs those religions which have had their origin in India, most particularly Hinduism itself, and to a lesser extent Buddhism. And I want to make it perfectly plain before I go any further that in talking about these two great religious traditions, in terms of images, I am talking about the way they express themselves at a rather popular level. Sophisticated Christians and sophisticated Hindus think beyond images. For example, a Christian may think of God as the Father, but a sophisticated and educated Christian does not imagine that God is a cosmic male parent with a white beard sitting on a golden throne above the stars. Nor does a Hindu imagine literally that God is the super showman, the big actor. These images are what it is like, not what it is. And perhaps when I get through with discussing them, we'll be able to ask the question as to whether any of these images still make sense to us in this 20th century when we have a view of the world so powerfully shaped by Western science. Now let me begin then with a few things about the image of the world and thus the image of man as it comes to us from the Hebrew Bible. It's said in the book of Genesis that the Lord God created man out of the dust of the earth, as if he had made of Adam a clay figurine. And then he blew the breath of life into its nostrils, and the figurine became alive. And it said that the figurine was made in the image of God. For God, who is conceived in this particular image as personal, as a living, intelligent spirit, creates in man something like that. But you must note very definitely that this is a creation, as the potter makes a pot out of clay. For the creature that the Lord God has made is not God. The creature is something less than God, something like God but not God. And you will see some very interesting consequences follow from this idea of the world as an artifact. What follows from it is that the whole universe is seen as a marvelous technical accomplishment. And if it is made, there must be an explanation of how it is made. And the whole history of Western thought has in many ways been an attempt to discover how the Creator did it. What were the principles? What were the laws laid down? What, in other words, was the blueprint that underlies this creation? And this image has therefore persisted throughout Western history and continues on into a time when very many people do not believe in Christianity or Judaism or Islam. They are, you might say, agnostics or atheists, but they still carry on something of this idea of the world as an artifact. If you are a Christian or a Jew, you believe that the world is the artifact, the creation of the intelligent spirit called God. But if in this culture you are an atheist or an agnostic, you believe that the world is an automatic machine without a creator, something which made itself. We might say then that our original model of the universe was the ceramic model. And the Bible is full of references to God as the potter who makes the world out of obedient clay. But when Western thinkers in the 18th century began to drop the idea of a personal God, they kept the idea of the artifact, and so we could say that after the ceramic model of the universe, we got the fully automatic model. And still, you see, underlying our way of thinking about things is the question, how are they put together? And if you want to find out, one of the obvious ways to proceed is to take them to pieces. Everybody knows that if you want to find out how something is made, you unscrew the parts and see what the secret is inside the box. And so Western science in its beginnings took everything apart. It took animals apart. It took flowers apart. It took rocks apart. And then when they got it reduced to its tiniest pieces, they tried to find methods of taking those apart too, so that we could eventually discover what the very smallest small things were, and so know what building blocks the creator or the fully automatic model used in order to put it all together, hoping that that would lead us to an understanding of how life works. Man himself in all this was looked upon as a creation, something made. Only there were some difficulties about this, because if you believe in the world in accordance with the idea of the fully automatic model, you've really got to admit that man too is fully automatic. In other words, he's a machine rather than a person. Man is something, in other words, that says, doffs its hat to you and says, how do you do? I'm a person, I'm alive, I'm sensible, I talk, I have feelings. But you wonder, do you really? Or are you just an automaton? Am I real, or am I just an automaton? The general result of the Western image of man hasn't been quite that. What it's come down to under the dispensation of the fully automatic model is this. We are living beings, we're very sensitive, and inside the human skin, by an extraordinary fluke of nature, there has arisen something called reason. And there have also arisen values, such as love. But this was a fluke, because it happened inside a fully automatic universe, which is stupid, because it's merely automatic. You won't, in other words, find anything really intelligent outside human skins. And therefore, if that is so, the only thing that people can do, if they want to maintain reason and love in this universe, is to fight nature and beat the stupid external world into submission to the human will. And so the war against nature is the great project thus far of Western technology. Because you see, each one of us, because we have inherit from thousands of years of history a view of man as something made, and almost of a sort of breath breathed into a pot of clay, or an image of clay, a kind of, each one feels himself as a globule of consciousness or mind living inside a vehicle called my body. And since the world outside that body is stupid, we feel estranged from the world. When we find out how enormous the universe is, that makes us as individuals feel extremely unimportant and rather lonely. Because you see, we consider ourselves, our basic image of ourselves is of a soul or an ego or a mind all by itself in its little house, looking out at a world that is strange and that is not me. I am therefore a brief interval of consciousness between the darkness and the darkness. And that isn't too happy. I would like to be able to believe that it was more than that. If I could, so many of us say, if I could only still believe that there is an intelligent and eternal God in whose eyes I am important and who has the power to enable me to live forever, that would be very nice. But for many people, that's an extraordinarily difficult thing to believe. Now I want to contrast this image of the world with another, what I call the dramatic image as distinct from the image of the potter, or the ceramic image. And this will be the presiding image of Hinduism. Their idea is this, that God didn't make the world like a technologist, but he acted it. That is to say, every person and everything for that matter, every tree, every flower, every animal, every star, every rock, every grain of dust is a role or part which the Godhead is playing. You must understand, of course, that the Hindu image of God is a little bit different from the Jewish, the Christian, and the Islamic. When I was a little boy, I used to ask my mother interminable questions. And when she got sick of it, she said, "My dear, there are some things in this life that we're just not meant to know." Well, I said, "Will we ever know?" She said, "Yes. If you die and then go to heaven, God will explain it all." And so I used to hope that on wet afternoons in heaven, we would all be able to sit round the throne of grace and say to the Lord, "Why did you do this and why did you do that?" And he would explain. Every child in the West asks his mother, "How was I made?" And nobody knows, but they know that perhaps somebody does, and that'll be God, and he'll be able to explain. Likewise, if anybody gets mentally deranged and claims to be God, we always humor such people by asking them technical questions. How did you make the world in 6 days? Or if you're God, why couldn't you change this plate into a rabbit? But that is because in our popular image of God, God is the supreme technocrat. He knows all the answers. He understands everything in detail and could tell you all about it. But the Hindus don't think of God that way. If you ask the Hindu God, "How did you create the human body?" he would say, "Look, I know how I did it, but it can't be explained in words, because words are too clumsy. In words, I have to talk about things slowly. I have to string them out, because words run in a line. And lines add up to books, and books add up to libraries. And if I explained to you how I made the human organism, it would take all eternity for me to tell you. Unfortunately for me, I don't have to understand things in words in order to make them happen. Nor do you. You don't have to understand in words how you breathe. You just breathe. You don't have to understand in words how to grow your hair, how to shape your bones, how to make your eyes blue or brown. You just do it. And somebody who does understand to some extent, maybe a physiologist, he can't do it any better than you can. So that, you see, is the Hindu idea of divine omnipotence. And that is why their images of the gods very often have many arms. You'll often see the god Shiva with 10 arms, or the Buddhist Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 arms. And that is because their image of the divine is a sort of centipede. A centipede can move 100 legs without having to think about it. So Shiva can move 10 arms very dexterously without having to think about it. And you know what happened to the centipede when it stopped to think how to move 100 legs. It got all balled up. So in this way, the Hindus do not think of God as being a technician in the sense of having a verbal or mathematical understanding of how the world is created. It's done in a simpler way, just like that. Only if we had to describe this simple way in words, it would be very complicated, but God, in their idea, doesn't need to do so. But the remarkable difference is that the Hindu doesn't see any fundamental division between God and the world. The world is God at play. The world is God acting. Now, how could you possibly arrive at such an idea? Very simply, when he tries to think why there is a world at all, because if you think about it, it is extraordinarily odd that there is anything. It would have been much simpler and required a great deal less energy for there to have been nothing. But here it is. And why? Well, what would you do if you were God? Or let me put it in a simpler way. Supposing that every night you could dream any dream you wanted to dream, what would you do? Well, first of all, I'm quite sure that most of us would dream all the marvelous things we wanted to happen. We would fulfill all our wishes. And we might go on that way for months. Besides, you could make it extraordinarily rich by wishing to dream 75 years in one night, full of glorious happenings. But after you've done that for a few months, you might begin to get a little tired of it. And you would say, what about an adventure tonight in which something terribly exciting and rather dangerous is going to happen, but I'll know I'm dreaming, so it won't be too bad. And I'll wake up if it gets too serious. So you do that for a while. You rescue princesses in distress from dragons and all sorts of things. And then when you've done that for some time, you say, now let's go out a bit further. Let's forget it's a dream and have a real thrill. Ooh. But you know you'll wake up. And then you get, after you've done that for a while, you get more and more nerve until you sort of dare yourself as to how far out you can get. And you end up dreaming the sort of life you're living now. Now, why does one do that? Why would one do that? The reason, the Hindu would say, is that the basic pulse of life, the basic motivation of existence, is what we call the game of hide and seek. Now you see it, now you don't. You see, everything's based on that, because all life is vibration, pulsing. Light is a pulsation of light darkness. Sound is a pulsation of sound silence. Everything is going at various speeds. And in order to have, say, it's like the motion of a wave. Now, a wave consists of two pulses, the crest and the trough. You can't have crests without troughs. You can't have troughs without crests. They always go together. You can't have hide without seek. You can't have seek without hide. Just for example, you can't have here without there. Because if you didn't know where there was, you wouldn't know where here was. You can't have is without isn't, because you don't know what you mean by is unless you also know what you mean by isn't, and vice versa. So in that way, they think that hide and seek is the fundamental game. As if the Lord, God, the Brahman as they call it, said in the beginning, get lost, man. Disappear, and I'll find you again later. And then when, you know, the disappearance gets very far out, then the contrary rhythm begins, and the dreamer wakes up and finds out, whew, that was a relief. And then after a rest period in which everything is, of course, at peace, starts all over again, because the spirit of adventure springs eternal. Now then, the Hindus had extremely vast ideas of space and time for their period in history, and they have the theory that the hiding part of the game goes on for 4,320,000 years, a period called a kalpa, K-A-L-P-A in Sanskrit. And then the seek part, that is to say, let me put it this way, the dreaming part is followed by the waking part. The dreaming is the hiding, where the Godhead imagines that it's all of us. Then for another 4,320,000 years, there's a period of awakening. And then at the end of that, again begins the dream. Now the dreaming period is further subdivided into 4 stages. The first stage is the longest, and it's the best. During that stage, the dream is beautiful. The second stage is not quite so long, and it's a little unsettling. There's an element of instability in it, a certain touch of insecurity. In the third stage, which is not, again, so long, the forces of light and the forces of darkness, of good and of evil, are equally balanced, and things are beginning to look rather dangerous. And in the fourth stage, which is the shortest of them all, the negative, dark, or evil side triumphs, and the whole thing blows up in the end. But then that's like the bang in the dream, you know, when you get shot in a dream and you wake up and it was after all a dream. And so then there's a waking period before the whole thing starts again. And so the Hindus feel that behind the scene, that is to say, in reality, under the surface, you are all the actor. But behind the scenes, in the green room, you might say in the very back of your mind, in the very depths of your soul, you always have a very tiny sneaking suspicion that you might not be the you that you think you are. Now the dreaming period is further subdivided into 4 stages. The first stage is the longest, and it's the best. During that stage, the dream is beautiful. The second stage is not quite so long, and it's a little unsettling. There's an element of instability in it, a certain touch of insecurity. In the third stage, which is not, again, so long, the forces of light and the forces of darkness, of good and of evil, are equally balanced, and things are beginning to look rather dangerous. And in the fourth stage, which is the shortest of them all, the negative, dark, or evil side triumphs, and the whole thing blows up in the end. But then that's like the bang in the dream, you know, when you get shot in a dream and you wake up and it was after all a dream. And so then there's a waking period before the whole thing starts again. But you will notice, if you compute, I haven't gone into the mathematics of it, but if you do, you will find out that in this drama, the forces of the dark side are operative for 1/3 of the time, the forces of the light side for 2/3 of the time. And this is a very ingenious arrangement, because we are seeing here the fundamental principles of drama. Consider drama. Here is a stage, and over the stage here is what we call the proscenium arch. And out there is the audience. Now you're supposed to be in the world of reality. So let's suppose this isn't a lecture tonight, but a show. And you've come outside into the show, and you know you're real people living in the real world, but you're going to see a play which isn't real. There are actors coming on the stage, but behind the scenes here, they're real people like you. But so that you don't see them that way, they're going to put on their costumes and their makeup, and then they're going to come out in front here and pretend to various roles. But you know, you want to be half convinced that what they're doing on the stage is real. And the work of a great actor is to get you sitting on the edge of your chair in anxiety, or weeping, or roaring with laughter, because he's almost persuaded you that what is on the stage is really happening. That is the greatness of his art, to take the audience in. And of course, in the same way, the Hindu feels that the Godhead acts his part so well that he takes himself in completely, so that each one of you is the Godhead, wonderfully fooled by your own act. And although you won't admit it to yourself, enjoying it like anything. Because you mustn't admit it. That'd give the show away. Now, it's a funny thing. When you say, I'm a person, the word person is a word from the drama. You know, when you open a play that is the script, you'll see the list of the actors, and it's called dramatis personae, the persons of the drama. And the word person in Latin is persona. That means through sound. Something through which sound comes. Because the persona in Greco-Roman drama was the mask worn by the actors, and because they acted on an open-air stage, the mouth was shaped like a small megaphone, and that would project the sound. So the person is the mask. Isn't it funny now how we've forgotten that? And so Harry Emerson Fosdick could write a book called How to Be a Real Person, which, if translated literally, is How to Be a Genuine Fake.
If there's one thing in my life that's missing, it's the time that I spend alone, sailing on the cool and bright clear water. There's lots of those friendly people, they're showing me ways to go, but I never want to lose their inspiration. Time for cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change. And now that my life is so prearranged, I know that it's time for a cool change. I was born in the sign of water, and it's there that I feel my best. The albatross and the whales, they are my brothers. It's kind of a special feeling when you're out on the sea alone, staring at the full moon like a lover. one thing in my life that's missing. It's the time that I spend alone, sailing on the cool and bright clear water. It's kind of a special feeling, out on the sea alone, staring at the full moon like a lover. Time for a cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change. Now that my life is so prearranged, I know that it's time for a cool change. It's time for a change. I know it's time for a cool change. Now that my life is so prearranged, well I know it's time for a change. Yes it is, yes it is, yes it is, yes it is. You know it's time for a cool change. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I needed the shelter of someone's arms. There you were. I needed someone to understand my ups and downs. There you were, with sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Yes, I do. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Feels so fine. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I close my eyes at night, wondering where would I be without you in my life. Everything I did was just a bore. Everywhere I went, it seems I'd been there before. But you're bright enough for me all of my days. The love so sweet in so many ways. I wanna stop. Thank you, baby. I just wanna stop. Thank you, baby. Oh yes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. It's just like sugar sometimes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Whoa, yeah. You were better to me than I was to myself. For me, there's you, and there ain't nobody else. I wanna stop. Thank you, baby. I just wanna stop. And thank you, baby. Oh, yes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Oh, now, how sweet it is to be loved by you. It's like jelly, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Just like honey.
Talking to you principally about the philosophy of the Lao Tzu book, the Tao Te Ching. And now I want to shift today over to Zhuangzi. This Zhuangzi, so far as we know, lived about 300 BC, maybe a little earlier than that. And he is a very, very remarkable person because the Zhuangzi book, he's also, more exactly, his name is Zhuangzi. But his book, sometimes called simply the Zhuangzi book, is quite unique in the whole history of philosophy, because he's almost the only philosopher from the whole of antiquity who has real humor. And therefore he's an immensely encouraging person to read. But part of his humor is the art of exaggeration. And you always have to allow for that. You always have to realize that he's slightly pulling his own leg. He is, as in a group of people who are enthusiasts for something, but have humor, you very often find that when they're talking among themselves, they carry their own ideas to ludicrous extremes and roar with laughter about it. And Zhuangzi does that. Now, for example, he has a great deal to say about the value of the useless life. The whole notion of something of life, any moment in life or any event in life being useful, that is to say, serving the end of some future event in life, is to a Taoist absurd. Because nothing is useful at all. The universe is viewed as purposeless and useless through and through, because it's a game. More than that, game doesn't really convey the sense of this. When a Taoist sage is wandering through the forest, he isn't going anywhere. He's just wandering. When he watches the clouds, he loves them because they have no special destination. He watches birds moving around. He watches the waves lapping on the shore. And just because all this is not busy in the way that human beings are busy, because it serves no end other than being what it is now, it is for that reason that he admires it, and it is for that reason that you get the peculiar styles of Chinese painting in the Tang, Sung, and later dynasties, where nature, in its wayward, wandering nature, is the main subject. When we say that something is without purpose, that's the put-down phrase. We say, well, it's no future in it. What's the use? No, we say, what's the use? And we need very much to realize that that question reflects our insanity. What's the future in it? What's the use? The joy for the Taoist is that things have no use, and the future is not important. Now you can exaggerate this, and Zhuangzi does in a very humorous way, by describing the ideal useless man. He's a hunchback, and he's so deformed that his chin rests on his navel, and so on, and but he says, now this man is very admirable. He's found the secret of life, because when the social service workers come around, he's the first to get a free handout. And when the military officers come around to conscript people for the army, he's the first to be rejected. Therefore, he lives long. And he also describes the case of some travelers came across an enormous tree. Fantastic thing. And they said, never did anyone see such a tree. So they went up and looked at it, and first they tested the leaves and found that they were rough and disagreeable and no good to eat. Then they looked at the branches and found that they were all twisted and absolutely no good for using as sticks. Then they examined the wood and found it was full of pith and absolutely useless for a carpenter. So nobody had disturbed this tree. It was not used for cutting down or any purpose whatsoever. And so it grew to an enormous size and was of great age. Now, Zhuangzi is here pulling our legs. He is not exactly asking us to take all that literally, but this is his way of doing things. Then also he describes the behavior of the high form of man. And he says, the man of character, that is, in this case, the word de we were discussing yesterday, the man of character lives at home without exercising his mind and performs actions without worry. The notions of right and wrong and the praise and blame of others do not disturb him. When within the four seas all people can enjoy themselves, that is happiness for him. When all people are well provided, that is peace for him. Sorrowful in countenance, he looks like a baby who has lost its mother. Appearing stupid, he goes about like one who has lost his way. He has plenty of money to spend and does not know where it comes from. He drinks and eats just enough and does not know where the food comes from. This is the demeanor of the man of character. Then by contrast, the hypocrites are those people who regard as good whatever the world acclaims as good and regard as right whatever the world acclaims as right. When you tell them that they are men of Tao, then their countenances change with satisfaction. When you call them hypocrites, then they look displeased. All their lives they call themselves men of Tao, and all their lives they remain hypocrites. They know how to give a good speech and tell appropriate anecdotes in order to attract the crowd. But from the very beginning to the very end, they do not know what it's all about. They put on the proper garb and dress in the proper colors and put on a decorous appearance in order to make themselves popular, but refuse to admit that they're hypocrites. So on. But this explanation of the man who is stupid in countenance and appearance and is wandering about as if he had lost his way and doesn't know anything, of course, is based on the text in Lao Tzu where he says, the people of the world are merrymaking as if partaking of the sacrificial feasts, as if mounting the terrace in spring. I alone am mild, like one unemployed, like a newborn babe that cannot yet smile, unattached like one without a home. The people of the world have enough and to spare, but I am like one left out. My heart must be that of a fool, being muddled, nebulous. The vulgar are knowing, luminous. I alone am dull, confused. The vulgar are clever, self-assured. I alone depressed. Patient as the sea, adrift, seemingly aimless. The people of the world all have a purpose. I alone appear stubborn and uncouth. I alone differ from the other people and value drawing sustenance from the mother. Capital M, that's Mother Nature. So, there is about you see, the character of the Taoist sage as depicted by Zhuangzi, something of the fool. Because the fool is the person who doesn't know enough to come in out of the rain, who doesn't compete. Everybody else gets before him to the prizes, the material prizes of life, and even to the spiritual prizes. The fool is, you see, the person who isn't going anywhere. He sits by the road and goes... The fool is like a Mongolian idiot child who isn't interested in survival, who will take a plate of food and run his finger around in it and make a wonderful slosh with the stew, and then watch it drip from the tip of his finger. He won't eat for quite a while, and then he'll play with it in all sorts of ways. Then his attention will be distracted by something else, and he'll chase after that, you see. But if so long as you don't cross him, this is the case of the Mongolian idiot, He remains the most wonderfully friendly, swinging kind of a cat. And, but he has no ambition. He doesn't fight for himself. And nobody can ever get him to. So the fool has always been used as a kind of analog of the sage. There's a Hindu verse which says, sometimes naked, sometimes mad, now as a scholar, now as a fool, thus they appear on earth, the free men. And if you read the biographies of the early life of Sri Ramakrishna or Sri Ramana Maharshi, they are absolutely wild. Now, not all of this, you see, again, just as in reading Zhuangzi, you mustn't take it too literally. These things are said by way of a kind of overstress to correct another kind of overstress in the opposite direction. When a Japanese scholar many years ago explained the teaching of Buddhism to me, he said something I had never heard anybody else say, that the Buddha taught, for example, that life is suffering in order to correct the wrong view that it ought to be pleasure. He said that everything is impermanent in order to correct the wrong view that reality lasts forever in time. So the idea of the middle way is set up in this fashion, by going to one extreme in order to correct another. And this is a very common Asian technique, and it is found especially in Zen, where teachers, when they are asked about something sacred, will always answer in terms of something secular. What is the Buddha? The tree in the garden. Then when you ask about something secular, they answer in terms of something sacred. You see? As there's a master and his student working in the field, and they are using a knife to prune, and the student suddenly says to the master, give me the knife. And he gives it to him point first. And so he says, but please let me have the other end. The teacher says, what would you do with the other end? You see, the question immediately turns into a kind of a metaphysical thing. So this play back and forth between the extremes has as its interior design the awakening of the mind to polarity that I was talking to you about yesterday, this thing of mutual arising. Zhuangzi tells a story about this. He says a certain keeper of monkeys said with regard to their ration of nuts that each monkey should have 3 in the morning and 4 at night. But at this the monkeys were very angry. So the keeper said they might have 4 in the morning and 3 at night, with which arrangement they were all well pleased. Now the number of nuts was the same, he goes on to say, but there was an adaptation to the likes and dislikes of those concerned. This, then, he says, is the way of conduct of the sage. Basically, Zhuangzi's philosophy is a philosophy of relativity. He makes a great deal of the point that there is no absolute standard of great or small, of important or unimportant. There is a story, for example, of a sort of enfant terrible at a banquet, and the speeches are being made after dinner, and somebody gets up and says that the human being is the highest of all creatures, that the whole world serves humanity, and there's a lot of pompous nonsense. The small boy gets up and says that since tigers feed on human beings, it's quite obvious, therefore, that human beings exist for the service of tigers. For Zhuangzi, you must get the point of view that small things are as big things can be, and big things are as small things can be. Everything can be looked at as great or small, important and unimportant, and all the steps between. Because his conception of the world is essentially cyclic. In his idea of the circle, and Taoist and Zen teachers have a whole method of teaching by circles and drawing circles. The center of a circle is any point on the circumference. You can begin anywhere. There's a koan in Zen Buddhism which asks the question, Indra built the seamless tower. Where did he start? Now a seamless tower is like a sleeve with no seam on it. It's a continuous cylinder of cloth. So the continuous cylindrical tower is the seamless tower. Where do you start? So in the same way, where does the circle start? At the circle of life, the cycle of life, the interdependence of the bees and the flowers, the interdependence of long and short, you see, it's all circular. And so there is nowhere and there is everywhere that it can begin. In the same way, when he discusses the organs of the body, he makes a catalogue of all these organs and says, now which do you prefer? He says, which one comes first and which one follows? Which one rules and which ones are servants? He said, it seems that there may be a governor in all this, but nobody could ever find it. This is a very strange passage in Zhuangzi, which I've seen translated in many different ways. There is an absolutely absurd translation of Zhuangzi on the market now, published in mentor books by a professor of Chinese at Harvard, and it is absolutely ridiculous. The whole thing is made by a man who is, I'm sure, an ex-missionary, and keeps talking about God. Well, there is no expression in Zhuangzi for God. There is this expression, Tianran, which has almost the same meaning as Ziran, spontaneity, of itself so. This means something is so through the power of heaven. Now heaven, Tian, means simply the universe. As you look out from Earth, which is, as it were, the center or the base, everything else, the whole expanse of the cosmos is Tian, heaven. And there is no connection in the idea of heaven with some sort of personal ruler of the universe. So the notion of God, you see, as we understand it, is really very foreign indeed to Taoist thought. And when you see somebody translating this as God, it gives a very wrong impression of this teaching. For example, there is a passage in which Shun asked Zheng, saying, can one get the Tao so as to have it for one's own? And the sage answers, your body is not your own. It is the delegated image of Tian. And, missionaries translate God, because they've read in the Bible, man is made in the image of God. Your life is not your own. It is the delegated adaptability of heaven. Your offspring are not your own. They are the delegated seeds of heaven. You move, you know not how. You are at rest, you know not why. These are the operations of the ways of Tao. So how could you get Tao so as to have it for your own? Similarly, there's a passage which says, when a drunk man falls out of a cart, though he may suffer, he does not die. Because his spirit is in a condition of security, he does not suffer from contact with objective existences. If such security may be got from wine, how much more from Tianran, from being in accord with the spontaneous rhythm of the universe. That's really what it means. But in the anxiety of missionaries And missionaries have been, you see, the great Western, they've been the foundation of Chinese scholarship in the West. To translate the scriptures into Chinese, they studied Chinese. They were the first people to study Chinese. And they have constantly, therefore, had an interest in slipping Chinese Christian ideas into Chinese classics, just in the same way as when you read Monia Williams' Sanskrit dictionary, which is the base dictionary for Sanskrit study for centuries, it's all made up with a missionary bias. But this notion, you see, of God in the sense of the personal ruler of the world is totally foreign to Chinese thought. There isn't even an idea in Chinese thought of the law of nature as we have it. See, the motions of the body, the harmony of the organism, is not what it is in obedience to a law. The Chinese do have an idea of law. This is the word zi. This is an interesting character, nowadays written this way. But originally written like this. This is a drawing of a sacrificial iron cauldron with a knife beside it. And it comes from a time when the laws were inscribed on the sacrificial cauldrons, so that when people came to offer their sacrifices, they would read the laws. Certain sages objected to this and said that if the people know what the laws are in the fixed terms of writing, they will develop a litigious spirit. That is to say, they'll start haggling about what it really says. And as you know, that is the principal occupation of lawyers. And they said that the thing is that you mustn't write it down like that. And so the Tao is described as Wuzi. We would translate literally lawless. But it means, of course, transcending this kind of law, which is specific law. Positive law, I think, is the correct legal term. So there is no notion in the Taoist philosophy, or one might almost say in Chinese philosophy as a whole, but it certainly includes Confucianism, no notion whatsoever of the world as responding to a boss. So the body, in other words, does not have in it a ruling organ. Its order is the consequence of, or the operation of, every part of it existing together simultaneously, arising mutually. There's no governor. Now, the difficulty, you see, in Zhuangzi's philosophy, the difficulty with human beings is they begin to think in terms of governing and ruling. And they set out to dominate themselves and their surroundings. And invariably this leads to a mess. He tells the story of an ancient man by the name of Polo. Polo was a great horse trainer. This is where we get the word polo from. But he said Polo absolutely ruined the nature of horses. Horses were nice, charming creatures like Dean Swift's Houyhnhnms before Polo interfered and ruined their nature. Then he says in other places, a good carpenter doesn't need a square or a compass. He works without it. And this is fantastically true of Japanese carpenters. You should see one of the fascinating things in going to Japan is these old-style carpenters working from the roughest architectural plans you could imagine, and with the strangest instruments, that they have an uncanny knack of fitting things by feel and by eye. A great story is told of ceremonial raising of the ridgepole of a new temple. And it was being done by a certain guild of carpenters, and there was a rival guild in town which had not got the contract. And they were very sore about it. So during the night, one of the members of the rival guild came, and he chopped off 6 feet or so of the ridgepole. And so when the master craftsman came in the morning and all the priests had arrived for the ceremony of raising the roof beam, he looked at it and said, "Somebody has interfered with this. It must be our enemy guild. They've cut off 6 feet of the roof beam." Anyway, he said, "Never mind, I will put it right." And he took his hammer and ceremonially struck the beam, then said, "Raise it." And it was raised, and it fitted exactly. So, the story is, of course, that the master carpenter knew that this would happen, and he made the beam too long. Those sort of stories are always associated with the art of carpentry. He needs no square, you see, because his sense of skill that is in his organism, in his nerves, in his senses, is much more subtle than anything that can be made with instruments. There are all kinds of stories about the artists of the Far East excelling in this kind of thing, of knowing with tremendous precision exactly where something should go. So a master is decorating a ceremonial tea room, and he's with his student, and the student wants to know where to put a hook for hanging a bamboo vase for flowers on the wall. And the master says, "There," and the student makes a little mark. Somewhat later, the student rubs out the mark, gets rid of it. But he remembers by a tiny little secret prick in the cloth where it should go. And then he says to the teacher, "Excuse me, sir, but I forgot where you said that thing should go." And the teacher says, "It was there," and he puts his finger exactly on the same spot, you see. That's the sort of thing that is admired, without the slightest calculation, you see. Now, he goes on and says, Zhuangzi explains at length that music has been ruined by the 5 notes. He says, "The 5 notes will make a man deaf, and the 5 colors will make a man blind." Now, what does this mean? The thing is that if you think there are only 5 notes, you can't hear. If you think there are only 5 colors, you can't see. The moment you say, this is a problem that we have in music, that we've got a notation, which is our chromatic scale. And the stave, the way we can write music, is limited to that possibility. But there are all kinds of subtleties between every one of our notes. Same way in writing our rhythm, we have to go in steps from whole note, half note, quarter note, 8th note, 16th note, and so on, and we can increase the value of each by 1/2 by dotting it. But that's the limit of our rhythmic expression. Whereas in all Oriental music, you have an infinite continuum, both of tone and of rhythm. They make the most extraordinarily complicated rhythms. And the way you learn music is not from notation, not from measures, but from the living body of your teacher demonstrating the ways of playing instruments. So you follow the teacher, the man, instead of what it says in a book. whole principle then is one of of success in life through not pushing it around, through not trying to govern it. He tells a story, as a matter of fact, Chuang-Tzu has a very funny trick. A lot of his wisdom he puts into the mouth of Confucius. He said that Confucius was one day doing this, and he ran into Lao Tzu, and they had an argument, and Lao Tzu won. But then the next time he talks about Confucius teaching Lao Tzu's doctrines. And this to the immense confusion of everybody. But it said one day Confucius was standing by a river where there was a tremendous cataract plunging down. And he suddenly saw an old man coming out of the forest who fell into the river and suddenly disappeared into the cataract. And he said, "Oh dear, too bad. Probably some old fellow tired of life who wanted to put an end to it all." The next moment, way downstream, the old man gets out of the water and starts bouncing along. And Confucius is amazed, and he sends one of his disciples to catch this fellow before he disappears. He said, "Sir, I was thinking that you were going to commit suicide, and I suddenly find that you came out of that cataract alive. Do you have some special method by which you do this?" "No, I have no special method," said the old man. "I just go in with the whirl and come out with the swirl. Because I don't resist the water, I entirely identify myself with water." So you see, here he is, utterly relaxed, just rolling around in the torrent and not resisting in any way. And so he is preserved. He goes with the stream, rolls with the punch, or whatever you want to call it. Again, of course, there is exaggeration in a story of this kind. Just as there's exaggeration in the story of the hunchback and the tree and so on. Because true wu-wei, or letting go, non-interference, it doesn't mean, for example, flabbiness. A lot of people, when they think they're relaxing, merely become flabby. And if that is so, you know, the perfectly relaxed person would slowly become jello and would spread out on the floor and finally drip through into the basement. Relaxation, you see, is simply something that happens when there's too much yang in you, too much of the positive. You need to balance off with the yin. And the trouble is that human beings, in their anxiety to control things, exhibit too much yang, too much aggressiveness, too much of the male principle. They need the balance of the female. And so all these exaggerations in the direction of let things go, let things happen, don't interfere, are stressing the yin point of view to compensate for the excess of yang. And furthermore, the difficulty always comes, I remember reading a book called You Must Relax. The difficulty always arises when one feels I must relax, I've got to let go, and let things happen. But how on earth do I do it? Even in trying to relax, I'm all tense because I'm anxious that it must happen, and maybe it won't, and how do you do it, you see? You can't achieve wu-wei like that. What you have to understand is that you don't have to do anything. There is no method, as the old man said. That the meaning of wu-tzu, when you call the Tao is wu-tzu, or lawless, it means there is no method in it that you can master and do it. What you have, it's all based on understanding, or what our psychologists call insight, that you have to find out that there is nothing that you do as a source and cause of action separate from everything else. When you know that, that there is no separate acting you, then there is no need to try to relax. The thing you have to see is that the flow of the Tao, as I said yesterday with the illustration of the people swimming in a strong stream, that the flow of the Tao goes on anyway. Just like the flow of time, for example, you can't get out of the present moment. You can think about the past and you can think about the future. But since you do that thinking now, the present is inescapable. All right, now the present moment does, doesn't it? It has a sense of flow. Time is going along, life is going along. Time, actually, the clock time, is simply a measure of flow, a way of going tick, 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 and counting the ticks, and say, well, we've lived through so many ticks. But nevertheless, this real time, as distinct from this ticking thing, is a flowing. And yet it's still. Isn't that fascinating? It moves, but you're always there. It's always now. You never get out of now. All right, now if you can feel that, see, that you can't get out of now, and you never will. See? Now, realize that what we call now is the same thing as Tao. The Tao, the course of things, the eternal now, the presence of God, anything you want to call it. See? That's now, and you can't get out of it. So there's no need to get with it, because you can't get out. See? That's beautiful. You just relax, and you're there. So that's the principle of flowing. You can make all kinds of very clever ways of postponing finding this out. It's terribly simple. But you can say, well, this is a very spiritual matter, and I'm an unevolved person, and it'll take me a great deal of time to realize this in a more than an intellectual way. That's an excuse for playing your own game and not finding this out. There are all sorts of elaborate ways of doing that, and you can put it off by indulging in the most complicated systems of spiritual culture and yoga and so on and so forth. And that's all right. I have no objection to your putting it off if that's what you want to do. But actually, it's always here and now. Just as you can't get away from now, you can't get out of the Tao. But that's the humor of the whole thing. And that's why Zhuangzi has this beautiful light touch. He says, the heron is white without a daily bath. The crow is black without being painted in ink. And this is the same saying, you know, as in Zen. In the spring landscape, there is nothing superior, nothing inferior. Flowering branches grow naturally, some short, some long. Or they say a long thing is the long body of Buddha, a short thing is the short body of Buddha. There are, therefore, you see, blondes and brunettes, fat people and skinny people, tall people and short people, cultured people and vulgar people. Even the Christian hymn says, the rich man in his castle, the poor man at his gate. God made them high and lowly and ordered their estate. You know, we don't sing that now because we've got too much social conscience. I think I probably read this passage yesterday. Maybe I didn't. But see, Zhuangzi has this to say about it. Those who say that they would have right without its correlate wrong, or good government without its correlate misrule, do not apprehend the great principles of the universe, nor the nature of all creation. One might as well talk of the existence of heaven without that of earth, or of the negative principle, yin, without the positive, yang, which is clearly impossible. Yet people keep on discussing it without stop. Such people must be either fools or knaves. Of course, one could always reply to Zhuangzi that there have to be fools and knaves so that we can recognize the existence of sages. Speech is not mere blowing of breath. It is intended to say something, only what it is intended to say cannot yet be determined. Is there speech indeed, or is there not? Can we or can we not distinguish it from the chirping of young birds? How can Tao be so obscured that there should be a distinction of true and false? How can speech be so obscured that there should be a distinction of right and wrong? Where can you go and find Tao not to exist? Where can you go and find that words cannot be proved? The Tao is obscured by our inadequate understanding, and words are obscured by flowery expressions. Hence the affirmations and denials of the Confucian and the Mozian schools, each denying what the other affirms and affirming what the other denies. Each denying what the other affirms and affirming what the other denies brings us only confusion. There is nothing which is not this. There is nothing which is not that. What cannot be seen by that, the other person, can be known by myself. Hence I say, this emanates from that, that also derives from this. This is the theory of the interdependence of this and that. Nevertheless, life arises from death and vice versa. Possibility arises from impossibility and vice versa. Affirmation is based upon denial and vice versa. Which being the case, the true sage rejects all distinctions and takes his refuge in heaven. That's in the universe. For one may base it on this, yet this is also that, and that is also this. This also has its right and wrong, and that has its right and wrong. Does then the distinction between this and that really exist or not? When this, the subjective, and that, the objective, are both without their correlates, that is the very axis of Tao. And when that axis passes through the center at which all infinities converge, affirmations and denials alike blend into the infinite one. Hence it is said that there is nothing like using the light. See, the axis of the opposites is the perception of their polarity. The difference between them is explicit, but the unity of them is implicit. The difference, the explicit difference between two ends of a stick, but the implicit unity that they are ends of the same stick, you see? So that's the axis. The axis of Tao is the, you might call it the secret conspiracy, that it lies between all poles and all opposites, which is implicit, esoteric, or whatever you want to call it, that they're fundamentally one. So that unity, whether it's between you and the universe, or whatever polarity you want to take, is not something that has to be brought into being. If one brings it into being, one assumes that it doesn't exist. That's called in Zen putting legs on a snake, or a beard on a eunuch. There's something unnecessary, you see. So it exists, it is always there, and you can see it so vividly. And actually